Hello, Mike Harding. Hey, what I'd like to do is take the next few minutes to share a little bit about one of the presentations we did recently, about a month ago now, back at Discover. I'm sure not everyone had the opportunity to see us there. And we did a series of presentations at the Microsoft booth because we're there with our partner Microsoft. And this is one of them. And what I'm going to do is to share a quick kind of review or highlight of it. Have this as a recording out there for you to take a look at your leisure and show you where to go for more information. So first off, this presentation is really about migrating from VMware to Hyper-V. As I said, we're in the Microsoft booth with our partner Microsoft. And this actually was the big topic of conversation, maybe not surprisingly. A lot of customers are showing up saying that they were in the process of doing this, or they've been considering it, or they already had begun and had specific questions for us, specifically relating to matching different workloads to different environments. In the case of Microsoft, there's more than one place to land. You can move to Azure, you can go to Azure Local, you can go to Hyper-V on Windows Server, from VMware. And what I quickly realized that there's no one size fits all answer. In many cases, I was having to work with partners there in the booth, talking customers through really more nuanced approaches. Because if you look at just Azure Local versus Windows Server Hyper-V, so they're both on-prem environments, both great environments, but they each one really comes with its own strengths. And the basic guidance was that if you're talking about really some sort of particularly like a newer application or workload, something that certainly is cloud connected, cloud native, Azure Local would be really a no-brainer environment to go to. And a great example of this was, actually a good example of this, I guess, was a customer who was interested in moving to, or definitely had the requirement to move to Azure Virtual Desktop, right? So AVD, so relatively new, right? But literally connected to the Azure environment. Runs on Azure Local, connects to the Azure environment. So that was a case where kind of a no-brainer. But they also had a lot of other traditional workloads. And they kind of felt like they were faced with an either-or decision. It's like, well, no, not really. Have one environment for that AVD. For in this case, it was a university. Those students and professors could access their desktops there. And then for those traditional workloads that they had been running on VMware ESX, vCenter environments, move those to Windows Server Hyper-V. And particularly the other thing, the big decider was, is an environment that's going to be connected to the SAN? And if that's the case, then you absolutely want to go that way. So not either or, it really is dependent upon the workload. So in our case, obviously we want to talk about HPE products and what's new. And in that case, certainly a lot of conversations were around the Alletra storage MPB 10,000. So that would be a great storage environment on which to host your Windows Server Hyper-V environment. And that really, if you haven't heard about it already, it's our latest greatest storage array platform. We really promote this as like the industry's first disaggregated scale-up block storage. But along with that, it has more capacity, up to, what are we saying, over 5 petabytes of storage capacity. And it also comes with that. We continued that 100% data availability guarantee. We had that on the 9000s. Now we have it on the MPB 10,000 as well. So that's very, very attractive. And specifically with Windows, we hustled to make sure that we had day one support for Windows Server 2025 on the B10000. So that's in the catalog. You can check that out. As I said, this conversation and the presentation I did was really about migration, but I really just want to hit the highlights because there's a lot of depth, a lot of technical depth. And actually, we've done some publications already on this. My colleague Chris Leonetti has a blog and some other materials he's posted. But the basic kind of high level here is that, and this was really I guess the thesis of some of the things he published was that you really want to match the conversion tool for the migration with the destination environment. Okay, sounds really simple, but there's a lot to pick from out there, a lot of third-party tools. But in this case, where customers are moving to Hyper-V, really probably the best one to consider would be SCVMM, so System Center VM Manager. So that is it's obviously it's a Microsoft native tool. There's native integration with Hyper-V, and along with the fact that it's established, there's a lot of expertise around it. There's also a free eval, and a lot of people were kind of surprised to learn that there's a free 180-day eval currently out there for SCVMM. And I guess a little insider trick here is that if you were to even exceed that, apparently you can actually update it up to 6 times. So, and actually, and it was the Microsoft people who were telling us this. So this is not just some us telling you to kind of game the system. Microsoft is actually saying use this as a tool to migrate from VMware to Hyper-V. All right. As I said, my colleague Chris Leonetti actually had a lot of drill down information on this, and I'll just like to share the highlights in terms of using SCVMM. As I said, it's pretty established, and there's a lot written on it. And as I said, he published it himself. Free eval to go make the most of, or actually continue to use it. As it's, I guess maybe it goes without saying, or maybe it should be said, it's definitely a very established IT management, enterprise management tool. And it's still continues to be invested in by Microsoft, and so it's not going anywhere. So definitely something you should check out for the eval, for that migration, and maybe even beyond that. All right, and then this is more information about Hyper-V. The thing I thought was interesting here is Chris calling out just the differences. I guess one of the other things to consider when you're thinking of going Azure Local or going Hyper-V on a SAN specifically is just the differences. A lot of differences in management and functionality features, maybe cost, but also in data efficiency. This is something he kind of called out in his information way down the bottom there. If you can see it, is that with the way Azure Local works is it's mirroring the data. So you really, across, let's say, like a 3-node cluster, you're only going to get a third of the effective capacity out of the disk drive, the capacities you have there, because the data is being copied. Whereas with a SAN, it's going to be, let's say, I won't question his numbers here, 80% effective capacity or thereabouts, depending on your RAID settings. So it's going to be a lot more efficient to get the same data protection on a SAN versus Azure Local. Just something to point out. And also a lot being documented out there on the conversion steps. I guess the things to call out here is that, as mentioned at the beginning, SCVMM is a very established tool, very established processes around using it for migrations, from VMware to Hyper-V. There's native integration, a lot of reason to be confident about using it, as well as a lot of expertise out there. So even if you do need to hire someone to help, there are going to be ample professional services folks out there to help with that migration. And actually, there's included a QR code you can use, as well as a link to get to Chris's latest publication on that, on this info. All right, and then speaking of info, we've been publishing a lot ourselves across the board on topics relating to Windows Server, as well as other Microsoft solutions that we work on. So definitely encourage you to avail yourself to all of those blogs and technical white papers and videos like this. Lots of reasons why Microsoft lots of reasons why you should think about HPE when you think about your Microsoft storage solutions, and lots of different solutions that we're working on, which I don't think people are typically aware of. Think of HPE, we really are spanning the board. This is just our business unit, really, doing solutions out there for Exchange Server, SQL Server, Windows Server, Azure Local, and all sorts of other new spins on all of those. So thanks a lot for your time, and check us out online.